attention over here. Uh, Welcome to the session on National Health Claims Exchange. As we step into the day 2 of Arogya Manthan, celebrating 5 years of PMJ and 2 years of ABDM, we would like to reflect on our achievements and move forward with digital public goods, which NHA has created through these two streams to strengthen the health system of this country. The objective of this session is to convene different stakeholders in the health insurance ecosystem to discuss the recently launched National Health Claims Exchange. By National Health Authority, this session would charter a roadmap for successful adoption of National Health Claims Exchange, addressing the anticipated challenges, benefit to the stakeholders, and patient at the core. It will also encourage a discussion on the adoption of tools aiding in auto-adjudication of health claims prevalent in the market and explore the possibility of extending this technology to the non-health insurance sector as well. So without further ado, it is my honor to welcome our distinguished panel today led by our chairperson, Mr. Mukesh Kumar Bansal, an officer of Indian Administrative Service. He is presently working as a Joint Secretary in Department of Financial Services, Ministry of Finance, Government of India. Shri Bansal holds an MBA degree from Sloan School of Management, MIT in USA. Sir, we would like to welcome you on the stage. So moving forward, our first panelist for today is Mrs. Yegnapriya Bharat, Chief General Manager at Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India, currently heading the Health Insurance Department. I would like to now welcome on stage Mr. Krishnan Ramachandran, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer at Niva Bupa Health Insurance Company Limited. Mr. Krishnan is an industry veteran and a well-recognized name in the health insurance space. He brings over 25 years of extensive experience across health insurance, healthcare, and life sciences industry. Mr. Krishnan, please. So our next panelist is Dr. Vikram Chatwal, who is the chairman of Mediassist Group. He holds an MBBS degree, MBA, and a PhD in medicine. He is previously associated with Apollo Hospitals, Reliance Capital Limited, Advent India PE Advisors Private Limited. We welcome you, sir. Our next panelist is Professor Sarang. He is the Professor of Operations Management at Indian School of Business, Hyderabad, where he also serves as a Deputy Dean for the Faculty and Research and an Executive Director at Max Institute of Healthcare Management. So last but not the least is Dr. Dilip who is Managing Director and CEO of Manipal Health Enterprises Private Limited. He has over 33 years of experience in various sectors and across functional domains. Finally, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our moderator, Shri Kiran Gopal Vaska, an officer of Indian Administrative Service. He is currently posted as a Director of National Health Authority, responsible for IT, policy, and coordination, as well as convergence schemes, related aspects of India's national flagship schemes of both ABPMJ and ABDM. I would request Mr. Vaska to now take it forward and open the discussion.
Thank you, Anshika. A very warm welcome and very good morning to all of you. Looking at the panel and also looking at the audience, I'm quite sure that today's discussion is going to be very fruitful and lay out and bring out certain very, very useful points that can help us forward this National Health Claims Exchange and accelerate the adoption. So with the permission of the chair, so I'd like to give a brief presentation on what works and then we'll take it forward, sir. Yeah. Okay. So the National Health Claims Exchange that has been developed by NHA in coordination with IRDAI basically aims at providing an interoperable, machine-readable, auditable, verifiable, and open standards-based communication protocol to enable automation of health claim-related information exchange between the payers, providers, beneficiaries, and any other relevant entities. As you can see, there are three main entities that are going to participate in this: the providers, which are hospitals, diagnostic chains, pharmacies, whoever provides healthcare to an individual. And then you have payers, which includes the state health authorities. Here, this is where we say that even the PMJY scheme also is going to come onto the claims exchange platform. Insurers, TPAs, and any other entities that are on the payer side. Then we have beneficiaries, which is very clear, which is in fact every one of us sitting here. So the idea is, like I said, to bring together all these three players and orchestrate the whole insurance claim processing in such a way that we are able to create value and we are able to generate, bring down the existing barriers and create an environment where claims processing becomes much more simpler, easier, faster. Then, to just give you a brief about what the broad architecture looks like, on the left-hand side, you have what we call the providers. And like I mentioned, they include hospitals, labs, etc., etc. On the right-hand side is the payer entities, and in between sits the claims exchange that actually helps in monitoring and governance and creates that e-claims interface where the claims exchange platform supports requests related to validation, transformation, routing, getting the policy details, transaction logging, smart contracting, and pre-auth service, and the entire claim submission and final adjudication, responses or adjudication. And at the bottom you can see the value add that ABDM brings to this entire architecture are these different registries and also certain utilities that actually make this claim submission and claim processing a more simpler job. And things like the drug registry, the ABHA ID, health claim, the professional registry, facility registry, and then this whole network registry of payers, providers, actually brings in the element of trust so that we ensure that everybody participating in the system is a trusted entity so that there is no additional amount or time and energy required to do additional validations. What are the capabilities of NHCX? The aim is to create an exchange that helps you perform different services such as get a coverage eligibility for an individual, get your claim status, enable you to get into smart contracts because the entire transaction is digitized, and more importantly, it has structured data. Then you get provider information in a much more easier, simpler fashion through the facility registry and the provider registry, policy details, the claims object, and that is what I think will form a major part of our discussion, and we expect more, anticipating more questions on that, are the policy, the plan object, which actually helps individual companies to create plans that are specific to them, that are tailored to individuals. And then digital contract management. Like I said, the very nature of the exchange, the very nature of data flow between the entities actually creates a situation where digital contracts that can be responded to and adhered to instantly, like instant payments, instant adjudications, etc., are also possible by using the protocols provided by the exchange. And how ABDM helps the industry through this exchange is driving efficiency. The ABHA ID, PHR enables seamless onboarding and also helps in price optimization. So if we look at the insurance life cycle and how this optimization is going to happen, so as you can see in the entire value chain, the first and foremost is about underwriting and risk assessment, where pricing and analytics can be much more what you call individualized. I mean, where you have access to more information, where your pricing and analytics can perform a better job. Then seamless onboarding. Like I said, until now, every insurance company is doing their own verification of both the individuals and the providers. By agreeing to use a common registry of patients and providers and facilities, we actually bring down this cost, that once I have verified someone, or once someone is already in the registry, no additional verification may be required. Rapid claim processing, this is something I have already mentioned. Access to the ABHA ID, that is what we call the health ID also, helps in digital verification of treatments rendered. The access to data that it provides helps in understanding the claim in a better way, so that they are settled quicker. And then moving beyond claims exchange, settlement, the idea of wellness management. Once insurance companies, it is in the interest of insurance companies to make sure that your clients are healthy. The more healthier they are, the better they are for you. By being able to access the longitudinal health history of your clients, you are in a position to understand their current health situation and drive them towards better health-seeking behaviors. So that, thus improving the overall wellness of the individuals. And then how it differs from the current process to the from the current process. Currently, there is an eKYC. Once someone comes in, there is a proof of identity that is asked. Then insurers establish identity through in-house or third-party verification, and then non-standard information is currently shared with you. And that actually results in premiums that are averaged out over a large over a population. Like for example, we must be like maybe 100, 150 of us here. If all of us were to go and apply for an insurance company, the companies currently, because of lack of information, put us into different buckets and average out and give us certain prices. But if our longitudinal histories are available, if data is easily accessible, then maybe each one of us will get a better policy that is more tailored to us. So that is exactly what is shown in the lower half, where the ABHA ID helps in eKYC. The medical records that are linked to ABHA ID helps in better understanding of the medical profile. And then rapid rule-based automated determination of coverage limits can happen, thus resulting in more structured, more tailored policies. And this is again what you call how the underwriting and pricing information can improve by better utilization of EHR. Then we have, like it was mentioned by at the time of introduction, the claims exchange is already live. And it is very much live. There are entities that are currently integrating at a very fast pace. I mean, we actually have created different levels of integration, where we say that if you are on our sandbox, you are at level 0. And if you are integrating on the NHCX participant registry, then you are at 1.1, and then you are at 1.2 if you have done M1 integration, that is what we call ABHA. And then you have level 2, where you have actually also integrated your insurance plan, and level 3 is where you are ready for sandbox exit and actually are able to provide this service to your clients. I am happy to inform that 47 insurance companies have already completed the participant registration. 22 of you have already completed level 1.2, and 10 of you are currently in the process of integrating your health insurance plans. So that is where we are, and I think that experience also will inform us during the discussion today. And in today's discussion, we have representatives from government, the regulator, insurance companies, TPA, we have from the providers, and we have academia. So I really look forward to trying to understand more about how do we take this forward, how do we accelerate this transformation of the health insurance sector. With that, I request our chair, Mr. Mukesh Bansal, to kindly give his opening remarks.
Thank you, Kiran, for making my life easy because you have given the details about the National Health Claim Exchange. So my task has become quite simpler. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to chair this session. I would also like to welcome all the distinguished panelists. As Kiran just now told, we have Professor Sarang, who has done a lot of work in healthcare management. Then we have TPA, then we have hospital, then we have regulator. So nothing can be, kind of more holistic than this panel regarding this important topic. So would like to start with just a kind of, maybe brief introduction of the insurance sector. So all of us know that insurance is one of the important financial sector thing for any economy. As of now, the penetration and density of insurance in our India is bit less. So we have a kind of long way to go to increase the penetration and density of insurance in India. So as all of us know that insurance not only provides safety net to the insured, but also provides a lot of funds for the kind of economic development of any country. So just would like to say that as of now, Indian insurance industry is providing more than 54 lakh crore worth of assets under management, and most of those funds go for the kind of infra project investments and other investment projects, so which help in the growth of any economy in the world. So regarding general insurance, health insurance is one of the most important, and it's quite sensitive also. So generally people, they do claim that, even after, paying the premium, sometimes it becomes very difficult to take the claim. But when it comes to the health insurance, so it becomes more challenging and more sensitive also. So like somebody goes to the hospital, so waiting for pre-authorization check, and then, once somebody is totally cured and once somebody has packed up the things and waiting to go, but then, hospital is waiting for the kind of pre-discharge consent. So those are annoying things. That's how, people generally somehow lose kind of, interest in the insurance. Regarding health insurance, as of now, as we all know that PMJ is the largest government-funded health insurance plan. So whereby more than, I think, 35 crore people are getting health insurance cover. And there are another 20 crore people which are getting health insurance cover through various group insurance plans. But if you look at the individual health insurance policy, there are hardly more than 5 crore lives which are covered under health insurance. So why this is so, I'll say there is lack of awareness, then maybe, there is a lack of affordability also. Then everybody knows that insurance is a bit complex product. So it's called a push product rather than a kind of, need-based that people are able to take it. So when we look at the health insurance, so somebody will say kind of cashless treatment, empaneled hospital, inclusion, exclusion, TPAs, all these things make life quite complex for the insured person. So probably this National Health Claim Exchange is one of the important initiatives that has been taken by NHA in coordination with the regulator. So which aims at standardization of certain processes of health insurance, which will in turn make lives of TPAs, insurance companies, and the most important policyholder quite easy, and people will be able to avail good health facilities, without any hindrances. So I'm sure that, with today's discussion, we will get to know important inputs, how we can take this forward, how we can make it, a very important component so that it helps in increasing the penetration of health insurance in our country. Again, I would like to say probably, this is one of the issue, which will help in standardization of this claim process, auto adjudication, and other things. So, but I don't want that we should limit our, discussion or maybe question only to these technical aspects, because the ultimate objective is how to increase the coverage of health insurance, how we can make it easy for the people, how we can make it simple, affordable, how we can build trust amongst people so that they know that if they are taking some health insurance, so whenever the need be, they will be able to get good healthcare facilities. Another thing I would like to say that as of now, when Kiran was telling about, ABHA, that how it is going to make lives easy, like reduce the premiums. I would also like to tell you that company license, government is also thinking that the company license will also rolled out maybe in the near future. So many of the life insurers will also be kind of, of health insurance and vice versa. Generally, international practice is that life and health are, treated in one bucket. As of now, we have, mono line of insurers. So I think in future that will also help, because once you have, data of health of some person, so even for that guy to take health life cover, that will also become easier, because then insurance company will be able to kind of easily evaluate his kind of, life, and then give proper premium and give proper sum assured at a kind of cheaper rate. So again, I would like to thank Kiran for giving this brief introduction about National Health Claim Exchange. And as Kiran expected, I also expect the same, that with today's fruitful discussion and having distinguished panelists in this panel, will definitely help NHA, regulator, and the government to kind of take the motto of Honorable PM, Insurance for All, to a kind of logical conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. In fact, having the government on this panel, one of our motives was to look at how government views the claims exchange and how do we look beyond health insurance and also into life and other insurance and how we can do it, sir. And yes, sir, your comments on how do we also talk about increasing the coverage and accessibility and make sure that it becomes more affordable is one of the major questions, sir. And I think we really hope to find some answers to that as well. So now I'd like to go to our next panelist, Mr. Krishnan Ramachandran, who represents the payer side. Mr. Ramachandran, with your experience in the insurance industry and with the advent of technology and with the advent of claims exchange, I would like you to highlight what you think are the challenges you feel in adopting the claims exchange and how we can make it faster. I mean, what kind of support you think is required from the regulator, from the government, or from NHA, and how do you think we can fasten this process? Because the more quickly we bring everybody in, then we will probably reach that critical mass where we start reaping the benefits.
Sure. Thank you, Kiran. Thank you, NHA, for giving me this opportunity. Is a privilege and a pleasure to be here. Quick word, Kiran, while just in terms of the import of your presentation, I personally feel, having been a practitioner in health insurance from 2007 in the Indian market, that what we're embarking on with the health claims exchange is perhaps the most transformational thing that I am witness to. And I think it directly speaks to the 4 A's that Chairman IRDAI always talks about. To increase insurance penetration, as Mr. Bansal mentioned, we need awareness, we need affordability, assurance, and access. And I think the health claims exchange actually plays and can play a very, very significant role on affordability as well as assurance, for all of the reasons that you and Mr. Bansal mentioned. One, it eliminates friction, it promotes transparency, and therefore builds trust. It lowers variance, and I think this is a use case that we must explore over time by maybe enforcing more and more healthcare that is evidence-based. So it lowers variance and therefore improves affordability. And lastly, a use case that you referred to, which is, it can fundamentally, I think, transform healthcare quality in our country. Longitudinal data made available over time does make for a more accountable system, change payment mechanism. So I just think that one is the operational and customer aspect, but more fundamentally, I personally think this is perhaps the most transformational thing that's happening to health insurance and healthcare in the country. Now, to your question on how can some of the challenges be overcome, I think on the insurance side, frankly, it's quite easy. There's only 27 companies, as you referred to. It's being run in mission mode between NHA and IRDA. All of us are being questioned reasonably frequently by Madam Yegnapriya and the team. It'll get done. So I don't think there is any challenge there. But I really think, given the fragmented nature of healthcare and it's spread across the country, that's where we will need to disproportionately focus our efforts on. And in my mind, something like this is actually like the plumbing for the industry, and well worth considering. I know that we've shied away from mandates so far, but anything that's a standard, in my opinion, needs mandate. This is not like UPI where there's natural customer demand. I'm sure the customer demand of the flywheels will come in time, but I really think to kick this off on the healthcare side, well worth saying that, look, this is mandated, and give a roadmap and a time frame, because in my mind, mandates for standards around data capture and data exchange are fundamental to how this industry evolves. And with the health claims platform, I do feel we have the opportunity to mandate something that's in the best interest of all stakeholders.
Thank you so much, Mr. Krishnan. And I think mandating something is I think one step we have contemplated and have been contemplating, and as government and as a regulator, we've always felt that taking a light touch approach and actually nudging the participants into using it by creating some value, so that they really feel the need to come in, and they really feel that by joining we have certain benefit is something that we feel that will probably bring in more players. I think this is the right time to then bring in our next panelist, Mr. Dilip Jose, who is from the other side of the claims exchange, where and this is where the whole fragmentation part comes in, different kinds of providers. Mr. Jose, I really wanted to understand from you, what do you think will be those value adds you think that will nudge you to join the claims exchange? And let's say we as PMJY, for example, if I say that from tomorrow you start giving me claims through the claims exchange in structured format, I'll pay you more. Maybe that is sustainable, not sustainable, or wrong then. Will that simple incentive work, or is it something else also that you think is required for you and all your provider community to come onto this bandwagon?
Thank you, Mr. Vaska, and it's a pleasure to be here this morning. I know traditionally Krishnan and I are on the opposite side. It is essentially a zero-sum game that we claim from insurance, and so we are traditionally antagonists, while not personally so, industry-wise we are antagonists. But I think the way forward, before I come to what might incentivize us, the way forward is what we talked earlier in another forum about moving to a value-based care kind of a mindset and a framework. Currently, our healthcare delivery system, and not only in India, in most countries, is episodic and fee-for-service. And it is well known, irrespective of who pays for insurance, Mr. Vaska, India can't afford a tertiary care-based healthcare delivery system. The economy can't really afford it. So I think it bodes well for everybody to move to a VBC system where we encourage people, encourage the system to take accountability for wellness and a preventative-oriented kind of a care. I think, let me address that thing first, that I think the health claim exchange actually helps orient the country to that, because with longitudinal data, there is ability to incentivize or encourage behavior from all parties, patients, providers and payers, to be consistent with that objective. I think that data-driven approach would help there. And if you ask me the first thing about what would drive adoption, I think a simple operating efficiency, Mr. Vaska, one of the biggest challenges, I allude to what Mr. Bansal said, is the delay for a patient to get out of hospital once the doctor says you can go home. And today it takes about, even in the best of systems, it takes about 4 to 6 hours, exactly like what Mr. Bansal said. And that 6 hours is not only a negative mindset for the patient. If you look at the fact that that bed is completely going waste for that half a day, that in a country where tertiary care beds are at a premium, I think utilizing the bed to the maximum efficiency is a collective responsibility. So if the claims exchange, it can hasten that discharge process. It can even, Krishnan and Mr. Vaska can have a AI-based kind of a logic where there can be a credit rating for a participating hospital. For example, if a hospital's track record is good, let the patient go home. We will settle our account later. That, we don't have to wait for the patient to be in the hospital for the claim to be over. If the track record of a particular hospital is good with the TPS and the insurance, let the patient go. That is an opportunity which the claims exchange can give us. And the second thing is the ability to cover people who are not coverable today. With longitudinal data, there is an opportunity to cover people who are not able to procure an insurance because of varieties of reasons. I think it is about crossing that initial hurdle of the friction and trust that Krishnan alluded to. I think if you all agree that this is collectively good for the healthcare sector, the providers would match the steps with the payers to go ahead. The final comment I have, Mr. Vaska, is that while hospitals like Manipal or similar corporate hospitals have the IT backup to engage with this, the fragmented industry may not have the ability. That is something we have to be mindful of. Otherwise, collectively, it's a great idea for us to go together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, in fact, this whole rating system of the providers is actually a very, very practical concept, and the PMJY does something like that. We have what we call the green channel payment, where a hospital which does not have any reporting of potential fraud for the past 6 months, we just give away 50% of the claim amount the moment they submit a claim. So that makes sure that their finances are up and running, and the remaining 50% is given once the claim is settled. But I think with the claims exchange, once data starts flowing in a more structured format, probably we'll give away 100%. We won't take those 6 hours. In fact, one of the corporate hospitals told us that this kind of wasting of half a day nearly accounts to close to 8% of bed occupancy that is getting wasted because we are not able to really discharge the patient after it. So, and therefore, I think both the provider and the payer both agree that this is a concept that is good. We need to do it. And the regulator is really pushing it. And like Mr. Krishnan said, we have Yegnapriya, Bharat, madam here. And I also see Mr. Pankaj Tiwari in the crowd, who are really after the insurance companies to get onboarded onto the claims exchange. Madam, I wanted to ask you and bring you in now that we've heard from both sides of the aisle. As a regulator, how do you think, or how are you planning this digitization journey? You already come up with a circular making Abha, advising the insurance companies to start using Abha. What do you think of this approach of mandating certain things, which Mr. Krishnan has mentioned? And what do you think are the reasons or roadblocks to pushing this adoption even further as a regulator?
Thank you, sir. First of all, I'm grateful to have been invited by the National Health Authority here. It's indeed a pleasure to be with such a distinguished panelist and a distinguished chair, and as well as all the participants. I did hear Mr. Dilip Jose mention that, he and the payers were on different sides, but I know that they are working together. And that is something that, as a regulator, we have been nudging insurance companies to, talk to their providers and as well as the third-party administrators and get them on board the NHCX. My mind goes back to 2019 when the first joint working group was formed with the IRDAI and the government. And it's really nice to see this day today and what has happened over the last couple of years, and of course prior to that, and the PMJ and all the developments. I think the NHCX is a perfect example of public-private partnership across the country. And this is one platform where all stakeholders, and as mentioned by the chair, there are so many stakeholders when it comes to health insurance, are going to be on the platform. Talking of roadblocks, I would rather like to call it challenges. I don't think there is a roadblock, because I believe that there could be certain concerns and challenges. More challenges, in fact, is that all these stakeholders need to get onto the platform. In fact, in a lighter vein, one of the companies, because of the follow-up that we do and the monitoring that we do, said that, "Madam, I think there is something wrong with your server, because I'm getting a mail almost every day with the same heading." I said, "No, please read the contents carefully. There is a change every day." So we basically monitor the companies. And sir, to answer your question, whether we should mandate it, I believe the scenario and the ecosystem within which we're working today, nudging is probably the right thing. And as you mentioned, because I think people actually, the stakeholders do see value in it when you try to explain what is in there for them. So if you see actually all the 29 companies comprising of general insurers and health insurers on board, we had given a deadline of 31st August. And mind you, that's again not a mandation. It was a mutually agreed deadline with the industry as 31st August. And by 29th August, all the companies had basically onboarded and registered themselves. I'm talking of the general insurers and the standalone health insurers. And many of them are working towards integration, and as pointed out by Mr. Vaska, basically at least 22 of them are in quite an important stage, where I think it is called M1, if I'm not mistaken, level 3. Two, in fact, have informed us that they have actually connected already through API, and they're waiting for some certification to come out of the sandbox environment. Be that as it may, the point I'm trying to make here is that the industry is upbeat about going on to the platform. But in terms of challenges, so the one is, how can we get everybody onboarded, the providers, the third-party administrators? And I'm sure we can hear from Dr. Chatwal on the TPA perspective. The other challenges that I can see are the level of technology adoption of different stakeholders today is, at different levels and different platforms. Of course, technology always has a technology solution where interfacing and integration can happen. But how can we do that at the least cost that is there? Because if cost increases for insurance companies, then that gets, added on to the price that the policyholder has to pay. So can we basically deep dive into details, understand with minimum effort and cost how we can get the companies to come on to the technological platform or level that we want and bring them on board. The next point, when we talk of auto adjudication or using NHCX for settlement of claims, a very important thing is the kind of standardization and protocols that need to be followed. I'd like to mention a couple of initiatives the industry, again with nudging, not mandation, has taken up. One is moving towards 100% cashless. And this is definitely going to happen through the NHCX. So the cashless percentage in terms of number of claims, which was around 49% about 6 months ago, has now moved to 63%, which is a great effort on part of the industry. And finally, all the benefit of all of this is going to be seen by the policyholder. And in terms of, what Mr. Krishnan mentioned, the 4 A's, he spoke of affordability, awareness, accessibility, assurance. I want to add one more point of appropriateness. I'm talking of appropriateness of products, which gives greater choice, and that will definitely, access to that will help what the chair just mentioned in terms of increasing penetration. So I think when we have everything under, one particular umbrella and on a platform which is technologically enabled, I definitely am very positive. It's a question of time, when we can actually reach where we want to. We have made great progress today, and where there's a will, there's a way. All of us need to get together, and we need to work towards that.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And as NHA, I'd really like to compliment IRDAI and thank Chairman sir for the kind of initiative he's been taking and pushing. And IRDAI has been at the forefront in ensuring that NHCX becomes a reality. We are where we are today only because of those emails you are sending to the insurers regularly. Ma'am, you did mention about bringing in all the players onto the platform, and I think this is when the other important member of the stakeholder of the ecosystem, the TPAs, comes into picture. We have Dr. Vikram Chatwal with us. Dr. Chatwal, I wanted to ask you about, as a TPA, what are the challenges that you foresee in integrating with NHCX? Because you sit between the exchange and the payer. And where do you think are the issues that might come up, or what kind of concerns you may have, and how do you think we can nudge the rest of the TPA industry to also come onto this platform?
Thank you so much, Mr. Vaska, and I really appreciate this. I think it is the whole ABDM effort, NHA's effort in creating the healthcare exchange that's planned is a step not only in the right direction, but I think will transform all of what's being said here. For me, if I lay out the opportunities that we have created, I think the cornerstone of all this is the registries. For me, what everybody in this audience would look at is whether it is a physician registry, a hospital registry, a pharmacy registry, a laboratory registry, at least there is harmonization of the language that we use to identify not only an individual with the ABHA ID, but across all of the various stakeholders in delivery. I think the word of caution there is the fact that, as Dilip rightly mentioned, if you looked at value-based care, these registries are ever expanding because care is not limited to an inpatient program or a daycare program or a pharmacy benefits program, but it extends itself to various modalities of healthcare. And I think the ecosystem in the wellness idea or in value-based care will need to keep understanding what's the definition. For a very long time in our country, the definition of a provider was a hospital. I think thanks to ABDM, that definition of that provider has changed, and it will continue to evolve as we go forward. If I went back into the milestones that we've talked about, the M1, M1.2, M2, M3, a few key inputs, I think, from an ABHA creation validation, whether it be testing or VASA certification. I think most, if not all, insurers will get it. Most TPAs or all TPAs will get it. I think it's a straightforward. I compliment you and your team for having allowed the ecosystem to absorb the tool and then go out there and make sure that the ABHA ID gets created. So that's really something that I would see universalization in this audience, if not today, latest by tomorrow morning. And that's a big, big move because we finally have a social good number that we can use for our health records. The second piece is milestone 1.2, which is the whole idea of linking or delinking what's happening in the NHA to actually commercial insurance policy numbers. And I think, again, there are 2 points that all of us, at least coming in from the industry, would like to have seen. One is the fact that we possibly need some more conversation around the administrative simplification of how you link and delink, because today, as I see it, the workflow has increased the complexity of us needing to go through an insurer system who is the only authority to link or delink versus going through the larger ecosystem, which includes TPAs, so that anybody who is the principal source of data could link and delink a policy number. The other area, which is a little different from a public health scheme perspective is the idea, whether it's assurance or insurance, is the idea when it comes to group policies. And I think group policies, for those of us who need to understand what it means, is most often each one of us buy an individual plan, and so you get an individual number. But often enough, we are covered by our employer, and the employer issues one number on a policy. But there could be 100,000 of us or 1 million of us under that template. And I think, again, to Mr. Vaska and the team, the request would be that a lot of people here would be covered under group plans. And so we don't really have today a naming convention of how we will create an extension to a typical policy number, whether that extension is your employee ID or your Aadhaar number, or not Aadhaar, but or an Aadhaar number. But there needs to be a naming convention that is an important sequelae to the conversation. And I think 1.2 will hit roadblocks from an insurer perspective and a TPA perspective, because we just don't know how to identify. The second is, within families, often enough in a family plan, not only in a group plan, do you have a situation where there is husband, wife, child, and again there we need a naming convention and an agreement, I think, between the insurers, us, the regulators, and of course you, on how will we define that extension. That convention for an extension is important. So I see that as a milestone which will be achieved. It is achieved. We've seen the numbers that are there. You've talked about nearly 22 insurers of the 29 that have come into that fold. I think we haven't dealt with this component, so while we've done it, it still remains unsolved. The other milestone 2 and 3, I'm not going to spend a lot of time, because that's largely publishing and access of the PHR or EHR. But that sandbox, I think, is one step away today for all of us. For those of you who want to understand that, the idea is that once all of this is done, a policy is tagged to an individual and an insurer and or a TPA, we now have the ability to be able to access that information from the provider system and tag your longitudinal medical record. But I come to the exchange, which is finally, UHCX is the big, the opportunity where everybody is looking, from what Dilip says to what Krishnan talked about. And when I come to the exchange, I think there are 2 themes that I'd like to share. One, I think rightfully so, Yegnapriya ma'am and the regulator has been key to pushing the TPAs and the insurers into this ecosystem. Like Dilip rightly said, his hospital group and other chains will follow suit. But the long tail of India, in our network of 29,000 hospitals, the long tail is indeed long. And when you get to that point, you will really have, I think, the long-term fiscal incentive that you asked, Dilip, the question around. Well, getting payments faster is truly something everybody in this room who comes from a provider system will say, yes, I want my money back faster. To what Kiran, you said, to the point where you are capitating, paying 50% upfront to a green channel hospital, and you'll hopefully pay 100%. I think that typically in common insurance always happens for us, because you have a preferred provider network. The preferred provider network is a known network or a known devil, either way. But there is still a conversation around what is the long-term fiscal incentive, because the magic will disappear like it happened in the West. The magic of getting payments faster will become par for the course in 1 year. Because जब सबके पास उतना ही पैसा रोज जल्दी आ जाएगा, तो फिर अगले दिन वो कहेगा सुबह उठ के कि अब मुझे क्या दे रहे हो आप, उससे आगे क्या दे रहे हो. And that will be the expectation from a provider system that would come back and say, how do I get this? So I think a conversation on what is the long-term fiscal incentive is important. The second area there is, when you look at the providers, is, and I'm trying to be very careful to say this right, that while automation and adjudication is all there, we have a challenge around the quality of machine-readable data that will come from the long tail. We don't, and I don't believe that the long tail will have the capacity and capability to create that information. So automation, in its purest of sense, is and could become a distant dream if you don't bring it forward. I'll give you an example. Let's say a medical management case, dengue, and you needed the platelet counts. If automation had to kick in, then you had to have a way to have a machine-readable format of the platelet counts in a CBC to say, this is good to go with. And there again, it's not something that is unsurpassable, but there again, there is a need for conversation to be able to enable that piece going forward. The last, if you permit me less than 30 seconds, I'm sorry, is that I think Dilip made a very valid point on early admission and instant discharge, two distinct themes. I think the early admission problems are solved. I would say thanks to the regulator and thanks to all of you, where you're beginning to mandate a situation where intimation becomes important. Like anything else, you consume a service, you intimate. And so that's been a great success. I think instant discharge is a real living being today. And it's partly, in my mind, it's not on account of insurance, but it's on account of the co-pays that associate with insurance, in commercial insurance at least. And the calculation of that 5 to 10% of the value, more often 5% of the total bill value, keeps the 95 in bay. So it's not the 95 problem that we're solving, we're trying to solve the 5% problem. And this is where I think I would ask Bansal ji, as he thinks about all of this, is like you have credit rating and equivalent for an individual in other systems where you can go out there and take for that 5% problem. Look, we are holding back people not for the 95% of the payout that the insurer will pay. We are holding back people to calculate aapko apne jeb se kitne paise dene padenge. And that's partly the problem. I think automation, auto adjudication will solve the 95 like that. It'll be over and done with. It's the 5. Now 5, of course, predictive analytics, Kiran, like you said, is a clear area. In our business, for example, we're solving the 5. The 95 we know will solve. Is to predict the 5 and take a bet on how much the 5 will be. But partly it's satta because you're still taking a bet. And so effectively to try to solve for that is the last piece of the conversation. And I think that needs a larger frame of, all of the work that's done in financial inclusion and how much of that can be used to solve this 5. Because if you told me that you will, Vikram, you can pay the 5% 10 days after leaving the hospital and I have a way to recover, then the 100 is solved. So with that, I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to all of you, and thank you, Kiran.
Thank you, Dr. Chatwal. I mean, very, very pertinent points raised, especially on the group policy, and as we try to crack the insurance plan object problem, I think this is one thing that will really require a combined effort from all of us to really understand how we do that tagging and how we do the extension part for group insurance. And regarding the challenge of machine readable data, I know there are some participants in this crowd who have in the audience who already have solutions, who are already trying to be those adapters between the provider and the exchange and the payer and the exchange, who can do this additional value add. I'm sure we'll hear from a couple of them as part of their questions also. But I think on the standardization side and on group policies and how this whole standards and protocols evolve, I think this is where our expert from academia, Professor Sarang, comes in. And Professor Dev, I really want you to clarify for us or tell us briefly more about how this claims processing ecosystem standardization can happen. What do you foresee? What are the international standards or experiences that are there? And especially, what do you think should be our approach for these group policies or family policies? And I really like the way this thing is flowing. I think one speaker is actually putting a question for the next one. Really thank you all for that. Please, Mr. Dev.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you for the invitation, and very happy to be as a part of this August panel. Now, as an academic, I'm predisposed to being skeptical. So before I go into that natural mood, let me first start by congratulating you and your team. I think you've not only taken a systematic approach, but a systemic approach, which is often lacking. The panel is a reflection of that approach. We know that there are multiple stakeholders, and we need to create not just a win-win. I usually say a win-win-win-win-win for something to work in this sector. So I don't know how many of those questions that you pose I'll be able to answer, but let me start with the process, and it's very commonsensical to think about the claims process. First a claim needs to be created, then the claim needs to be transmitted, then the claim needs to be judged, adjudicated, and then settled and paid, right? Now, the health claims exchange is sitting in the middle somewhere, right? You are transferring the claim, at least that's the initial focus of that. The big question is creation of the claim, right? And that's where we are getting into this machine-readable stuff. Because only when the claim is appropriately created and very efficiently created, then you can sort of, the rest is a relatively well-oiled machinery. And I want to pick on some themes. The benefit of me being the last speaker is there are a lot of themes already there. So fragmentation is one, right?
Yeah.
And very aptly put that we have a really long tail, not only on the provider space, but on the IT space, right? So on the EHR space. Because where does this creation of claims sit in? It is taking the operational data, clinical data. You've done something to the patient and I'm recording it, and then that needs to be translated into claims. Now, what are the kinds of systems that our hospitals have? As many hospitals, as many IT providers. And so how do we bring those on board, I think is a challenge. And I think to your original question about the mandate, and I know the panel has already weighed in on this, for us to make something mandatory, we've got to have a relative uniformity on benefits and costs, right? Because otherwise the mandate may lead to, unhappy stakeholders, some of them, and others will be more happy. So what I'm proposing is that we start to capture, like the value part that was mentioned, right? We start to capture what value is really created for different stakeholders. And I'm saying monetary value. Mm-hmm. At the same time, what are the friction costs? It may not be out-of-pocket costs for a hospital to adopt the health claims exchange. It could be friction. It could be change management. Mm-hmm. So while a lot of discussion right now is about technology, there are two P's that we need to keep in mind, processes and people. Right? And so the way we convince people to change processes is by showing to them that there is some business value. We often talk about early discharges, right? And when I teach this to executives in the healthcare sector, I say, if I were to reduce the discharge process delay by 1 hour in your hospital, how much money will be created? And I think that's a very, very difficult question. I will put on top of that the fact that this number, if we were to calculate it, will be different for different types of hospitals.
Yes.
And hence their willingness to adopt a solution like this will be different, right? Similarly, the adjustment cost. So if we start to get a sense of this heterogeneity, we will set realistic expectations of who will be early adopters, who will be late adopters, and we'll be okay with it. We'll set milestones accordingly. And the other heterogeneity is, I think, in terms of overtime. So while health claims exchange is the topic today, but you will say this is part of a larger ecosystem, a BDM ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So then, is this the tip of the spear through which we are trying to, accelerate adoption, or is that something else? Because all the benefits are not going to come from one solution, and there'll be synergies. If two are adopted together, you'll get greater benefits. I think that heterogeneity over time, so we talked about longitudinal data, and then the longitudinal data will help us to create better insurance products. reaching that stage will also be different for different types of hospitals. Some may want to reach there fairly quickly, and others will say, who knows, we'll get there when we get there, but right now let me just reduce the cost of this transaction. I think one point that was maybe not mentioned enough or emphasized, I'll say, you talked about wellness. And in your initial slides, you put managing wellness as the last link in that. What if you were to put that as the first link in the sense of product design, right? So when the friction cost of settling claims reduces, will that spur insurance companies to create new products? Or maybe it's not insurance companies. We start moving towards managed care, where the question now is it insurance company, is it provider, is it a combination of two? Because that's the space that many health systems have gone in. And I'm very happy that value-based care was mentioned several times. I think the hope is, and this may sound like a little contradictory, but the hope is that the more we move towards outcome-based care and value-based care, the need for noting down everything that I do to the patient and then making sure that that is accurately captured in the claim and then the claim is settled should come down. Because unfortunately, a poor example for us is the US, right? Where they have this mixed system, and think about what percentage of their healthcare spending is on admin costs. Right. It's in double digits. So while it's a much larger question, but I would like to pose it and say, hey, if we were to move in that direction, then some of these issues around the NHCX could also be simplified. So I'll pause there, and again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Professor Dev. I think we've heard from all our panel, and I think we have a lot of interesting perspectives awaiting from the audience as well, and who may also want to know certain things from the speakers. So with your permission, sir, the chair, I would like to open up for questions. Before that, I would just like to call out one person in the audience, Mr. Yegnapriya. If you can stand up, please. You know him from behind. Some of you have interacted directly with him. He is one of the persons who is key in developing the claims exchange. I thought he requires credit for the work he is doing. And I think this is his life's work in a way. So I think we are all like working around that exchange, and I think be it understanding the claim object and how do we go about doing it, and be it understanding the payer-provider system. I think the efforts of all of us are culminating into these things, and I really wanted to call out your name, Yegnapriya. Thank you for your work. So I think now let's open up for questions. My request is kindly briefly introduce yourself and tell whom you are questioning, whom the question is directed to, and kindly keep the question brief so that we can take as many as possible. Yeah, please.
My name is Sumit. I'm Chief Architect and CTO at OHM Healthcare. My question is to the insurers and the TPA community. So we generally deploy solutions and we design frameworks for providers and the beneficiaries, right? Here I would like to stress upon the important fact that Professor Sarang also has brought to a certain extent, wherein we tend to neglect the preventive side of the story, right? So we are focusing on providers. Providers are providing the tertiary care. The government is managing the lower strata of the population, right? But the middle tier, as we also discussed yesterday, is always neglected, right? Insurance companies and TPAs, right, in principle are sitting on the largest sort of beneficiary platform, right? So they are managing the biggest population in terms of providing care and also being able to, okay, so I am paying an insurance company, right? So I probably would hold them accountable for certain things, right? And I think it is time, when we talk about the long tail, if certain providers who are accomplished and they can provide the IT systems, The long tail cannot, right? Why can't the insurance companies or the TPAs pitch in and provide a platform for the long tail so that they also can be onboarded, right? Why can't the insurance companies think of a platform, a solution which can be sort of customized for the middle tier, for the patient, so that they don't have to go to the hospital in the first place? So this is the question to the insurance and the TPA community.
So, would like to take it, Mr. Krishnan? Yeah.
Sure. No, I think the point on wellness prevention, obviously all of our incentives are aligned for keeping our insured population healthy, right? So, and today, if you ask me personally, most products do have components of prevention. Most products have, at the minimum, a health checkup built into them with encouragement for policyholders. Most products do have encouragement in the nature of discounts for premiums, and the regulations broadly have been very, very supportive in terms of incorporating prevention, wellness, chronic condition management, whatever you want to call it, into products, and that's, I would say, state of affairs today. Now, if it is not bigger than what it is currently, I think there's been 2-3 reasons, I'd say well discussed for most part, but I'll very quickly highlight. One is a tax reason, which is that healthcare is tax exempt. The moment you want to buy anything in the nature of an outpatient service, it attracts 18% GST. So straight away you're starting off in insurance 18% negative. When you have to solve for outpatient care, including prevention. So that's one. Second, for most part, there's been lack of, let me say, technology and data in order to truly, in a operationally light way, and the HCX, I think, can be the start of a journey where adjudicating low-value, high-frequency claims becomes operationally more light, less expensive, and also then you start to get the data to truly build out risk-based products. Because today in our country, let's face it, in the long tail of hospitals, it's somewhat still perhaps easy to go to a pharmacist to get a bill, to get reimbursed from insurance. So I think as we solve for this, insurers will squarely start to offer more and more of these solutions.
Thank you. There's one more very, very important player that I really wanted to recognize is the National Center for EHR Standards. We have Ms. Manisha Mantri here. This is the body that creates all the fire objects that will actually help us. This is a government body from CDAC. Manisha ji, aap bhi ek bar, because these are the people who are really working behind. And there is no claims exchange without a fire object, and fire objects are designed nationally for the country. This is the government body doing it for the country, and this is the team that is doing it. Really wanted to call them out. Thank you, ma'am. Yes. Can we have the next question? Aapke piche jo hai, please. Yeah. Yes. No. One behind you. I'll call you 1 minute. He had raised hand before you.
Yeah.
आपको ही कह रहा हूँ. आपके पीछे है. उनको पूछने दीजिएगा.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Myself, Dilip Chaturvedi, founder of the Doctors App as a EMR platform. The friction point, one of the most important part, collecting a data at a OPD level, because that's where, which I have realized that a consultant and physicians, what are the different symptoms, they can capture, and then based on the different symptoms, we can offer them different, insight, what will be the future challenge, what will the future, health issues will going to come to the patient. Now, the friction which we have realized that mostly OPD adoption that is where the challenge, because there the lot of patients are waiting on a consultant and physician level, and receptionists, like, they don't want to capture it, they want to go with the paper. So I agree with the Krishnan, where some level of a mandate, like or incentive at a OPD level, like that is where initial data comes, and then it goes to the hospital and other part, because that's where the IPD treatment comes. But OPD is a major chunk of data. That's where we can have a more insight actually, and which can give us a better insight and give better report to the patient, and which will be the predictive treatment instead of anything which is coming after 6 months. So what's the government is going to think on that perspective, because until, we have been seeing meeting with the 100 doctors. I have been met with the 200 doctors. The friction that's where I see that, अभी तो mandate नहीं है, चल रहा है ना paper में, मतलब, और they also see the challenge that data can go to the government and then they will start analyzing in terms of financial terms. So they start thinking from the financial perspective, not at the, giving an EMR platform to the doctors.
So this question is directed to
Krishnan.
Mr. Krishnan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I think probably Dilip is better suited to answer.
Yeah. I think let
Yeah, I actually did a courageous thing by volunteering to answer that question. That sort of jumping on the grenade kind of a thing. That you are right. The OPD data is the voluminous data that in a hospital like ours, and I believe it is true for most hospitals, that about 10 times the number of patients that we would admit every day, at least 10 to 12 times we would see in the OPDs. The biggest challenge, like you said, is about the ability for doctor to capture data in a fashion that you would want. But in what we have done, some years back, maybe about 2 or 3 years back, is not to make doctors change the habit. I'm just saying doctors are happy writing on a piece of paper. Getting them to change the habit would be the challenge. Then what we are trying to do is capture from the same source document. That, these days, I think Mr. Vaska talked about machine readability being so easy. So we have now EC systems available where they continue to write. That data then transcribed to the HIS, the Hospital Information System, and it can then further do the analysis that you are talking about. I don't think it's an expensive solution. I think even for the long tail that we all talked about, I think most large hospitals have already implemented it. Even for the long tail which is there, I think this is a practical solution, so long as you are not forcing the doctor to change the habit. The moment you tell them there is a tab, you draw down, you click, it is probably not going to work. I think if you sort of encourage them to sort of use a technology which does not change the underlying process that they are used to, it could work.
Just one word to add, and this is to you, Mr. Vaska, Madam Yegnapriya, and of course Mr. Bansal. Look, I think this goes back to the conversation on a fiscal incentive for long-term wellness and prevention. Today, a hospital is incentivized when there is a head on a bed, right? So if I am a hospital, I only get incentivized when I have an inpatient and I do a procedure, hopefully. Value-based care, managed care, all of the words that you've heard, wellness that you've heard, are all part of the other paradigm that says, if I found a way to incentivize somebody for outpatient care, which incentivized from a hospital perspective, not a user perspective. By default, I think the answer, they will switch to a WhatsApp equivalent transcribing solution overnight. So I think it goes back to the larger conversation around what's the long-term fiscal incentive that we're giving, which incentivizes hospitals to keep people out of beds, because today the only economic model is bed in a hospital.
Thank you. So now I think it's your turn to ask. No. Unfortunately, everybody is in a straight line. I can't even point like this or this way.
Sure. Thank you so much. Myself, Rajiv,
if I may request all the audience to kindly keep your questions brief.
Will do. Myself, Rajiv Malhan. I'm part of Aditya Birla Capital. So my question is to Mr. Mukesh or Ma'am Yegnapriya. So ma'am, as you know, insurance penetration is a point of contention for all of us. We all want that we need to have a more insurance penetration. I think it's a mode of a trust which we need to build on, and I think discharge would be the mode of truth for all of us. The better discharge, the better claim procedures we have, that is the moment of truth which will come, and that will help us taking the penetration forward. The way eKYC and other DPIs have helped us in bringing out the cost of acquisition down, I'm sure HCX will also bring down this particular piece, the cost of delivery. Obviously, we can very well say that other DPIs have taken 7 to 8 years to reach up to the exponential growth. How do you see HCX reaching up to that particular growth level where we can say that, okay, you know, it is helping actually the insurance penetration down the level?
Right, I think you have basically directly linked claim servicing and how that can create trust, in the system for a person to believe in the system of insurance. So I think the answer is quite right there in your question, because NHCX is the solution to bring in faster claim settlement, transparency. It's going to definitely, reduce the element of fraud. And in the long run, it will create critical mass as well as, because if people are happy with servicing, you'll have more people getting into the system. And there is going to be a price reduction for people out there. So, if you look at in terms of penetration and looking at health alone, as part of the general insurance segment, it's just about 0.33 or 0.34%. And that's, of course, the way we define penetration. But I would rather like to see it in terms of number of lives that are being covered. So when there is a system where the claims servicing, is faster and, should I also say, more transparent, then definitely that trust is created in the system and you will have more and more people coming in. I leave it to the chair to add.
Just as you yourself told that eKYC helped in kind of, acquisition of more people on the insurance front. So same is the case with the claims also. The more you use technology, I think, better trust will be created. And again, from the government perspective, I keep on saying that insurance is a complex product and people need to have faith in that. So for that, there need to be more awareness and we need to make life simpler for the people rather than, maybe whether it's a pre-authorization stage or kind of at the discharge state, they should be kept waiting. So maybe technology is the answer, like we have seen that for digital transaction, I think, again, there was no mandate, there was no kind of, even proper nudging. So COVID, which was a bad phase, but ultimately it changed the landscape of the digital transaction. So maybe as we involve more and more technology in the insurance sector also, I think it will lead to more standardization of products, better understanding by the, kind of prospective customers, and the technology leverage will help in kind of, overall removing the kind of roadblocks in the entire chain of the system.
Great. So we had one hand raised from that side. Yes, you have the question.
Hello sir, my name is Tejas Bilani and I am from HealthTech company and we are having a Healthy as an PHR application. So it is in a slide there is a proposed process which also includes ABA and PHR enabled process, right? So how directly the PHR application will play a role into this National Health Claim Exchange one?
Maybe I think I should take that question. See, the idea is that when an insurer is trying to assess a potential buyer of insurance, they would need access to their health information. So in our in our federated architecture of holding health records, what we said is data either stays with the provider or with the data principal. Then this is where the PHR apps come in. You are helping the data principal to retain the records in the health locker. So the data principal has an option of either providing the data, his health data from the provider directly or from his own health locker. So when a consent request comes for health request, it can actually be shared from a PHR app also. So I can actually consolidate all my information on my health locker and that is where the data flows in. So this is how it will work. Yes, from the back over there.
Hello, my name is Sahij Kashyap. I represent Clinic. I was wondering if the panel could speak a little bit about how the health claims exchange could help with OPD-based financing. I think Ms. Yegnapriya had said about appropriateness of products. I think for a large swath of the population, being able to see the get value before hospitalization is also important. So if we could just, what are the opportunities? What are maybe some milestones we would like to reach there.
I think that was to you.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. So today, as you know, most of the products revolve around hospitalization, though there are a few elements of OPD. But going forward, and especially with technology that brings in, as I said, mitigates the moral hazard, if not completely eliminate it, more and more products with OPD design will come in, and we also see them coming in. And when we talk of stakeholders onboarding to the NHCX, it's not just the hospitals we're looking at. We're also looking at other, entities like wellness centers, family clinics like yours probably, and, diagnostic centers and so on. So when all the stakeholders are there on the network, I'm sure that same kind of benefits that the hospitals are going to reap in terms of being there as part of a common network, the family clinics and other establishments will too. One thing I'd like to mention is there's a lot of discussion going around at the moment, because today we define hospitals in a particular way. We are looking at expanding the definition of provider. As you're aware, the Clinical Establishments Act does recognize many more entities. So we're trying to discuss and see if we can, bring that kind of a concept into this. So I'm sure that, there is scope and a role for all health and medical related entities.
Thank you, ma'am. We had one question from the back, right, last row. Yes, please. No, you can, okay, you don't have a mic in front of you. Okay, please.
Good morning to everybody over here. I'm Tarak Nagaraj, and I'm the CEO of Abhaya. And I'm going to ask a very pointed question, which is related to me. So we make, Wi-Fi enabled ECG device for cardiac monitoring. And just coming back from the US, and we got an option of, Medicare and Medicaid has added ICD codes for remote monitoring of patients. So do we have any such plans? Because a lot of patients and doctors ask me if Holter monitoring, remote monitoring of patients from homes and others, would that be, added to the insurance sector, public as well as private? Thank you so much.
Thank you. And your question is directed to, maybe we should, Dr. Jose, you would like to take that? Because I think it's more from the provider side, or?
For the insurer side.
And also from the insurer side, yes. Dr. Krishnan then.
Yeah. No, look, as we discussed earlier, the whole idea is that insurance can start to cover the continuum of care, including diagnostics, preventive aspects, chronic condition management, etc. Once we solve for the 2-3 challenges that I articulated. So, yes, I think the straight answer is yes, but we have a few steps to cross, and the HCX is certainly an important enabler to being able to do that. Just one clarification to the earlier discussion. My point on mandates is on standards, not on product benefits or anything else, Professor, just to clarify that. And, on a lighter note, there's something to be said for a regulator's nudge and encouragement, which I'm sure the healthcare industry can benefit from.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have a quick. Yeah, yes, ma'am, please.
I'm not responding to Mr. Krishnan, but I just want to add to the point raised by the gentleman there. Telemedicine is part of the product design of a few products that are available today, and it is also available as an add-on. So there is scope, in the product already for that.
And we also have an RCES with us who sets the HR standards. We will actually definitely work on how do we include those codes as well. That I think that we can get it from NRCS done. I think, sir, maybe we'll take just one more question.
No, it's okay. I'm fine.
Please.
Yeah. So my question is to you, Mr. Vaska, and I'll start my question from where Mr. Sarang left about US healthcare system. Although it is not the best of the system, to quote about in the entire world. But they have done some good things, and I am talking about 10 years back when I visited in one of such seminar, where one of the insurance company, United Healthcare, presented that for a person they were able to predict the entire future health causes diseases which they will have, and they were able to do it because they had the entire similar health claim exchange records. They had the entire OPD health claims and every record which was available for them. Why I'm giving that example is, just to bring to my question is that In this entire health claim system, providers are the creator of data. You know, for 27 insurance company, we have 3 people on the dais who are pushing 27 insurance companies. But on the provider side, which is 30,000 providers, I don't see much push happening. And I think Mr. Krishnan also alluded to that there has to be some mandate. And I understand that mandate is on the provider side also. And Mr. Vaska, you also talked about that, some PMJY incentive and other thing also. But I don't see much work being done on the provider side pushing, which is a long tail, as Dr. Chatwal also talked about. So can we do something? And health is a state subject. We have much more complications as a country. But can NHA drive that initiative, to push providers, which are 30,000 in numbers?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. And then this relates to the point raised by Professor Sarang about is this the tip of the spear that we are using? Actually, we are not using a spear, we are using a trident, a trishul. One of the tips is the claims exchange. The other one is actually the adoption efforts by ABDM. Today, more than 130 different types of health claim, health service providers or IT companies are actually onboarded on the ABDM platform. It's less, but we have 800 in the pipeline. On top of that, this long tail that has been talked about, how do we digitize them, how do we bring them on board? We have an incentive scheme. It's like, see, the idea is like, I need to find some value. At least we thought we'll start creating some monetary value. We said, okay, if you are a provider, if you are linking a health record, we'll give you an incentive. And if you are a software provider to that provider, we also give you a percentage incentive for that as well. So we have already paid close to 5 crores as incentives for very small hospitals, small IT providers on this. On top of that, we are actually now working on a franchisee kind of a model where all these providers of software systems which are going to automate all these entities, we are saying that, okay, we will actually train on-ground professionals on how to sell this data, how to guide the healthcare providers on using this system, IT system, how to use it, and then incentivize them as and when a provider starts using it. Lastly, across the country, we have started this project of 100 microsites. The idea is here is to create 100 islands of excellence and of approximately 4 to 5 in each state, where we are saying we will take, let's say, urban area, let's say 10 wards in an urban area. We want to convert everybody in that area into an ABDM, using an ABDM enabled solution, just to demonstrate that effect, what is the benefit of coming onto it. So we are trying to address that long tail. And the third point is about regulatory simplification wherever we can bring about. From the programs that the government itself is running. Today, all government programs are enabled, ABDM enabled. So, right from the time of birth, your vaccination, 0-dose vaccination, to all the other things that the Women and Child Development Department gives, the RCH program gives, the TB program gives, the NCD program gives, all these are already on ABDM. So, data is being created on the government side as well. So, this is how we are trying to nudge or create that value, because we completely understand. It's not just about that sole provider who is going to do it. There will be so many diagnostic reports that need to be coming in. So we are trying to address that issue as well this way. That corner, yes. That lady over there. Please, ma'am.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, yes.
Good morning. So you talked about ABDM compliant IT softwares. Can you give us a picture about what percentage of government solutions versus what percentage of private solutions in the digital space are ABDM compliant?
Of the 130 odd solutions, 30 are government, remaining are private. Because see, we only have e-hospital and e-Sushrut, which are HMI systems developed by government. Rest are all government programs. So not even 30, I'd say probably 20 of them are government, because NCD, let's say for example, the non-communicable diseases program is one program, but it runs an entire country. And vaccination, RCH, reproductive and child health, it again runs around the country, across the country. So the government side, now the thing is, We are now pushing the government hospitals also to start using this software. That is the key. Because the software gets enabled. But you start using that HMIS and start creating the records. That is where the real challenge is. So, but if it is in terms of solutions, majority are private solutions. One question from here, and I think this is the last question we'll take. Yeah, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Swarnindu Chaudhary, representing the organization IHX. My question is to Shri Kiran Gopal Vaska ji. So he has already spoken about insurance companies, their adoption of NHCX, the milestones, and it's pretty much regulated because of IRDAI. Now on the other side, hospital side, which is relatively less regulated, what is the plan for increasing awareness and what will be the milestones from their side for NHCX integration?
Thank you again for that question. I think what we are trying to do is, first, we have close to 30,000 hospitals in the PMJY ecosystem. There are a similar number that are catering to the private insurance ecosystem. We are trying to bring those hospitals on board, and for them to come on board, they would require these intermediaries like IHX who would actually help them convert their data, be it in the form of a PDF that is scanned or something written, and then a structured data being created out of it, which will eventually help in creating those objects, the FHIR objects. So one way is like we are currently, the PMJY system is going to move into the new next version of the transaction management system, which is completely built on the claims exchange platform. So all these 30,000 odd hospitals are out there